Hi all, you are watching a fragment of the Countdown program from February 26, 2024. Today is Monday. View all of our programs on the Patreon resource. And thanks to everyone who is becoming our patrons right now. I'll talk about the themes of the postscript later, but now about the most important thing. It's very unpleasant to admit this, but the Ukrainian armed forces are now retreating, leaving one settlement after another to the Rashists. While the leader of the whole, Pushilin, reports on the complete cleansing of Avdiivka, the occupiers themselves have reached the outskirts of Orlovka, the next settlement after the captured Lastichkino to the west of Avdiivka. There were attempts by the Russians to gain a foothold in houses on the outskirts of Orlovka, as well as in the vicinity of Tenenkoye. The situation in these settlements is being clarified. South of the north, the enemy also launched an offensive and had partial success. It is noted that on the northern flank there was an unpleasant moment with the breakthrough to Berdichi, but it was repelled. In addition, the invaders are advancing on Stepovoye. All these racist successes occur against the backdrop of weakening aid to Ukraine, despite political vows during meetings in Kyiv. If Ursula von der Leyen and Justin Trudeau visited Kyiv, this does not mean that Putin's plans will change. Just as the arrival of Annalena Baerbock in Odessa does not guarantee that the Rashidists will stop thinking about how to capture her. The American Congress continues to dodge a decision on financial assistance to Ukraine. Trump howls to the whole world about how he will end the war and sit down the good guy Putin with the intractable Zelensky for 100 negotiations. The latter called for preparation for the turning point that will come immediately after the US presidential elections. But Biden is trying to do everything to get help for Kyiv. On Tuesday, Biden will gather 4 congressional leaders at the White House to pressure lawmakers to pass an emergency aid package for Ukraine and Israel and prevent a looming shutdown. The bailout legislation had already passed the Senate by a 70-29 vote in early February, but Mike Johnson has resisted bringing the relief bill to a vote in the House, where he is Speaker. This is one of those cases where one person can change the course of history. Speaker Johnson, if he brings this bill to the floor, will have a strong bipartisan majority in favor of aid to Ukraine, said Jake Sullivan, the White House National Security Advisor, and emphasized that the Ukrainians need weapons and ammunition to repel Russian forces. And that in private conversations with the Speaker, he made it clear that he would like to receive funding for Ukraine. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, in an open letter, called on Johnson to once again stand up to the extremists in his caucus and do the right thing by green-lighting the funding and preventing a shutdown. In response, Johnson called Schumer's letter counterproductive and said Democrats were making their own unrealistic policy demands. This is not the time for petty politics, Johnson said in a statement in response. House Republicans will continue to work in good faith and hope to achieve results as quickly as possible, even as we continue to insist that the security of our own borders must be addressed immediately. End quote. All this inter-party fuss under Trump's populist babbles is happening precisely at the moment when the Ukrainian armed forces are forced to leave their territories to the occupiers. And who knows how much more territory will be captured before 20 European leaders gather in Paris on February 26 to send a signal to Putin of European resolve towards Ukraine. We want to send a very clear message to Putin that he will not win in Ukraine, said an advisor to Emmanuel Macron. Our goal is to shatter this idea that he wants us to believe that he will somehow win. End of quote. Amazing generosity, especially considering Putin's readiness to personally board a nuclear bomber and drop something heavy and deadly on Paris. Become our patrons right now and look further in this program. Polish carriers are planning new protests on the borders with Ukraine from March 1. Polish farmers oppose the influx of Ukrainian goods, as well as European policies related to the so-called Green Deal. In Kyiv, accountants are trying to comprehend how the attitude of deep-seated fascists to the war with Ukraine has changed after 2 years, and they state but nothing. The furry people don't live inside the war, it doesn't concern him, and in general it's a sin to complain. War is like a mother to them. The Israel Defense Forces presented to the country's military cabinet a plan for a ground operation in the city of Rafah, located in the south of the Gaza Strip, as well as a plan for the evacuation of civilians from the combat zone. Watch in the program, Postscript. The Kremlin, as the initiator of the war, is currently setting the tone and dictating its pace. Russia has put Putinomics on a war footing and has managed to accelerate to the limit, while Europe is just beginning to gain momentum in accelerating the military-industrial complex. Military analyst at the Royal Danish Defence College Anders Nielsen considered two main scenarios for events in the third year of the Great War. Donald Trump faces a 5-week journey through states where he will have to work hard to win the November election. And that is all. See all of our programs on Patreon. And thanks to everyone who is becoming our patrons right now. Hugs to everyone. See you on Thursday. Glory to Ukraine.